seen it in my dream. The village. It was already there. The rice fields, the watermill. Everything looked just like you told me. And the people. There were so many. They worked so hard to keep us safe and at peace with the gods. Finally, everybody was happy, and there was no hunger anymore. It was so beautiful and peaceful. I couldn't believe it. So, Dad, please promise me. Promise me that we will survive.
After some incredible success with Medieval Dynasty all the way back in 2020 and 2021, the early access game that brought you in to a peasant of the medieval world, we'd spent so long trying to become lords, trying to become kings, raising armies, going to war, fighting with diplomacy or with sheer strength and brutal steel. However, Medieval Dynasty brought something completely different, shoving aside all of that stuff, living the peaceful life, trying to strive and build your own villages, building stables, crafting, smithing, farming, recruiting NPCs to work for you and increasing relationships to finally end with an heir. But this series has been going on longer than you might think. I mean, there's Farmers Dynasty, there's Lumberjack Dynasty, who wouldn't want to play that, but now Toplet's production is coming into the new world with Sengoku Dynasty, the Japanese-inspired follow-up to one of the best medieval games of the last few years. Back in December, it was properly announced, with PC Gamer writing an article saying how Sengoku Dynasty is the survival city builder set in warring medieval Japan. The city building and survival does seem to be at Sengoku Dynasty's heart, with the promise that as your towns grow, they will begin to attract new inhabitants and thrive. Various biomes are promised, from the usual ancient forests and snowy mountain peaks to Japanese cherry groves and the mist-covered hot springs. The game features an in-depth crafting system covering food, weapons, and buildings, plus you can cultivate land, which looks to be taking farming to the best of its limitations. Now, the Steam page itself doesn't offer all that much in terms of when we're actually going to get our hands on this game. Of course, it's saying a 2022 release date, but it could be months away for all we know. Yet some of the recent gameplay that's been shown in the screenshots look absolutely beautiful, showing the beautiful valley and landscapes of Japan, set in this medieval time that hasn't been explored all that much in gaming. You see, when everyone says medieval, we all think of medieval Europe, but there's so much more to explore there. There's so many beautiful cultures and rich bits of content that we can get our hands on, but we've never had the experience of that first-person medieval Japan. Of course, hunting will be a big part of it. I think most of the core gameplay is going to be very similar to something of Medieval Dynasty, starting with pretty much nothing and going around these already established villages. There will be people living there that you can talk to. You can grow your relations with them by doing quests for them, or you can go out and strive on your own. Eventually, when you get to a point where you have enough food, water, resources, and of course shelter for them, you can start bringing people into your town and growing them yourselves. Whether you want to be a smith, a weaver, a blacksmith, or even a warrior, you can choose to do that or bring the AI in order to help you with the parts that you don't necessarily want to get your hands dirty with. But this is where it gets even better, because Sengoku Dynasty is going to launch with full co-op gameplay, and not just 2, but 3-player co-op. Something that I'm really looking forward to. I think Medieval Dynasty was a fantastic launch, and it was something quite special. You see, Toplist aren't the biggest company in the world, but these smaller, more personal, intricate games that they've been releasing within this Dynasty franchise all seem to be pretty well received and have done pretty well. But whilst it's all overseen by the publisher Toplist, they're not the developers themselves. They're getting different companies to come in order to do so. Medieval Dynasty had RenderCube, Sengoku Dynasty had Super Kami, for example. This means that these development companies are able to spend all their time time, getting these games exactly how they want them to, rather than one company just spamming out this Dynasty franchise and making lesser quality games. The game will very much focus on being a life simulator in feudal Japan. Within this, you have the choice to play in the story mode or even a sandbox mode as well. Whether you want to go down quests and there will be a fully written out story that you'll be able to explore, or you can go out on your own. Maybe you just want to build, grow and fight for your glory and for your name, trying to make something of yourself in this Japanese valley. You can do that as well. There will be a vast open world with complete different biomes, getting you to have many different experiences that will change dynamically as you go throughout. The crafting and building mechanics are promised to be incredibly deep, whether it's weapons, medicine, cultivating lands, creating meals, or special projects that will change the world. Whatever they mean by that, I have absolutely no idea, but it excites me. There will of course be in-depth melee and ranged combat as well, protecting your village and your beloved ones. Study this weaponry, craft these weapons, and learn how to use them. Anything from spears all the way through unique Japanese weapons like katanas, naginata, and also yori bows and potentially gunpowder as well. Every village will have its own management throughout it. Of course, bringing in NPCs to help you with certain jobs, but also the family that you want to grow as well, depending on whether you want to claim yourself a wife and have children, or whether you want to strive as a lone wolf, training as a soldier, to work as a protective mercenary. There's something about this one that feels a bit more special. Medieval Dynasty was a great game, but it did feel somewhat limited in terms of the actual content you can get out of it, at least at launch. I think Sengoku is definitely learning from the issues that it had. And that's not saying Medieval Dynasty was a failure in any way. I think it was incredibly well received and I really enjoy the game. But Sengoku seems to be releasing with way more content and way more possibilities. The main one for me, of course, is co-op, but completely new biomes is a different one. Medieval Dynasty is one biome. It all feels very tight and put together. Yeah, the map is a decent size. It takes you a while to walk across. You do get places like rivers and lakes and of course forests that you can hunt and explore in, but having snowy mountains, deep valleys and big rivers is going to be a new experience. I mean, you can see in some of the trailers how beautiful this looks. Camping in the snowy mountains, presumably going hunting, but there's something on its way. It sounds like troops, it sounds like bandits coming to find them, and the father gets up, shows his katana and is ready to defend for his glory. Now, is it that unique? Is it separating itself that much from Medieval Dynasty? Not really. I don't think it needs to all that much, because it's obvious that this is a franchise that Top List Productions are continuing. They want to explore every single era. They want to explore many different gameplay styles. It does in some ways feel a bit like a Medieval Dynasty reskin, but that's to be expected. I just hope that they add enough new and fresh content in order to warrant it to come out as a new game. It will be coming out hopefully this year, but I expect it will be completely fresh, a full paid title, and hoping to expand upon what Medieval Dynasty ever did. Now, Medieval Dynasty released at about £27. It was quite pricey, but I think at least now through many updates, it has just about warranted its price tag. Sengoku Dynasty is probably going to be a similar thing. They do have that 3-player co-op, which I think is going to be a big selling point for it, being able to explore this medieval Japanese land not alone this time and with friends. And whilst that is now coming to Medieval Dynasty in the future, having it on launch is going to be very special. But I will be following it into the future of its productions, because Sengoku Dynasty is looking very promising.